Welcome to a Management Plus training webinar. My name is Kevin Sloan. I'm a certified electronic health record specialist and certified ophthalmic technician. Management Plus is an industry leader in EHR, and we want to provide you with the documentation tools and the skills to use these tools proficiently. Today's training webinar is titled Record Status. Let's get started. A record status is accessed by choosing File from the main menu, Electronic Health Record, EHR Setup, and then Record Status. This is only accessible if you have the security permissions to do so. This will launch your EHR Status Maintenance dialog window, where you now have full functionality to add, subtract, and modify all of your EHR record statuses. As you know, as described and detailed within our other training webinars, a record status is essentially a sticky note to you or to other folks within the office that something needs to be done with that record. A record that has been completed and needs nothing else further documented as far as medically does not need to have a record status documented. To document a record status for every single record created within your office is generally not time efficient and generally leads to confusion. So just like on paper records, if something needs to be done with that chart, you put a sticky note on there detailing what needs to be done. Same way with this. You don't put a sticky note on every paper chart saying that it's completed, because when it doesn't have a sticky note, you know that it's completed. Same within EHR. If the record status is blank, you know it's completed. Nothing further needs to be done. So occasionally when you do need to set a sticky note or record status to your EHR, this is where we're going to maintain this, or at least this is one place that you can maintain this. This actually is accessible from within EHR as well. You can see that we have some very usable record statuses here. Call patient later, needs dictation, needs further documentation, needs test results imported, sent to specialist, waiting for report, and waiting for lab results. These are all very usable record statuses that have sufficient details to tell you what needs to be done. You want to try to avoid having a record status that is so vague and nondescript that you really don't know what needs to be done unless you were to ask somebody. It is recommended that your total list of record statuses are at least 20 or less. No more than that, really. Once you get 25, 30 or more, then it becomes very hard to find these. So keep them to the minimal amount as possible so you don't have a huge list to look through. So then sometimes you have to decide, well, is it this one or that one, or so close. It doesn't have to be so specific that you could have 2 or 3 versions of one item. So this is just a basic sticky note that tells you something needs to be done. So if I wanted to add a new one, click Add, and then we'll just put on here something new about patient This is something that occurs occasionally if you have a record that you are prepping for your first EHR and your patient has been confirmed, but then they either no-show or they called and rescheduled. You'll want to use that record again. You don't really want to have a dead record out there. So it's a great idea to set the record status as this. Click OK. And then you will have that for a record that needs it. If you need to edit that, just click this, choose Edit, and then naturally you can modify this in any way that you need to. Bear in mind, if a record has a status that is saved within your entire database, if you modify this, it's going to modify all of the records that have that same status throughout your entire database to the new modification. So Currently this says needs further documentation, and if you added to the end of this within special tests so that it would be a little more detailed, all of the records that had this current status would be updated within your entire database to the new one where it says needs further documentation within special tests. Not a problem as long as you fully understand that and you're okay with that change. Not a problem. I'm just going to click cancel so it does not change that. Clicking on one of these, pressing delete, it will ask you if you want to delete that status. If you don't have any records that have that status currently, and you click yes, it'll just disappear. Oftentimes, if a record does have a status already assigned and you try to delete it, it will come up with a warning message telling you that you can't do that. So I'll just click no. So this is where you will modify, edit, delete, and add new statuses within this. Makes it very easy. Let's go into our favorite test and demo patient, Mr. Carl Aaron, create a brand new ophthalmology record, and I'll show you where these record statuses are accessible within EHR. We did detail this when we went over the Blue Banner training webinar number 5. We did talk about the record status. We're going to go into this in detail. As you can see, when I hit the drop down arrow, these are the record statuses that I have. Here's the new one that I just created. It's kind of cut off only because the lookup list is not that long, but that's okay. Even if it's cut off, that's perfectly fine. It will still be displayed elsewhere. Let's just delete that. If you were within EHR and you wanted to access your record statuses, click the flashlight. Now we are in the same EHR status selection dialog window as we were from the front side of ManagementPlus. So you have 2 access points to get into your record statuses, and you can perform all of the same functions from either location. And you could select it from right here. So let's just choose this, do OK, and I'll just put a note on here, patient no showed, something like that. Save and exit via Control Q. Now these will come in handy on your physician sign-off work list. As you can see, I have a status of blank within my sign-off work list right now. I'm going to clear that out by clicking the red X, and we'll mouse over the status column header. The filter appears. Now I'm going to find my record, and there it is by one click. So if you had within a week's time 4 or 5 patients that you had prepped their records, confirmed their appointments, but they did not show up or they rescheduled, you can find all of those right from here. So if the patient were to call back and say, I can come in on this date or such and such date, right click, review record, change the date of service so that instead of 4/18 it would be the new date of service. And you would still want to leave the status in there so that when the technician brings up the record, when the patient finally does show up in the office, they will just clear that status at that point. Okay. Because what they're going to see is, see on this date here of 4/18, they're going to be trained to look for statuses that says patient rescheduled, use EHR for next visit. If that's the case, they'll just double click on this when the patient actually is in the office, and then naturally change the date of service to the actual date that they're in the office. So if they decide to come in on Wednesday, just change the date of service, come over to status, delete that out, and you're all set. All is good. This concludes our training on the record status. Thank you.